Hi, my name is Carey Houston. I'm the founder of 321 Sales Academy.
In sales, there are many ways to champion a successful win. Carey Houston illustrates that it's important not to simply focus on closing the deal. She explains that the most important sales skill to develop is one key mentality: focus on your customers' needs while bringing in a curious and helpful attitude.
I think it goes back to mindset, that if you go into every interaction with your prospects from the perspective of how can I add value and how can I help them to be successful, they'll know it and they'll sense it. If you go in with the perspective of, I'm not making my number, I got to close this deal by the 31st, they will also know it and they will also sense it. So if you're coming, if you're coming to those interactions from a place of focus on their needs and their success, that's the heart of trust. That's the heart of forming trust with your prospects. I think the win or lose mentality comes from when you start from a place of focus on your own needs. If you focus on what the buyer needs, what are their problems and how do you make them successful, every interaction gets you closer. You learn more about how they buy and what's important to them and how they perceive the value of your offering, how they perceive you. And the reality is people buy from people they like and people they trust. And so sometimes it takes time to build that relationship to be able to win the deal. If you go into every interaction with the expectation of closing and pushing and moving, sometimes you do fail. But if you go in with the idea of how can I help them and how can I add value and how can I learn what I need to learn to eventually win them as a customer, I think every interaction can be a win along the journey to the big win, which is the contract or the close.
Building trust is essential to having a valuable relationship with your customer. It's important to be a trail guide and to help them on their buyer's journey.
Today's buyers have a ton of power and they have a ton of information and they don't need salespeople. They can get 80% of the way through their buying journey without ever having any interaction with you or your brand. And so in that context, the only way to win as a salesperson is to help them on their buyer journey, to be consultative, to add value, to share information, to be relevant, to be trusted. And if you believe you have a great product and you believe you're solving an important problem for your customers and you believe that you're adding value to them by doing so, to win at selling, you don't actually need to be pushy and aggressive. You're being helpful. Mm-hmm. And if you change that mindset, all of a sudden it feels great to sell because you're actually providing value to your customer, to your market.
In order to build a strong relationship of trust and reciprocal value with your customer, Carey emphasizes to not be a pushy salesperson. Rather, it's all about making a genuine and authentic human connection.
The first thing I would say is for anybody that has an aversion to being that salesperson, the one who's pushy and aggressive and selling something that you probably don't want, that's fantastic. Don't be that person because it doesn't work anymore is the most important factor there is it doesn't work. I think the other side of it is what you mentioned is about being authentic. I'm a big, for example, I'm a big believer in scripts. So scripts help me to stay on message, to make sure that I make the key points that I need to make. But the script has to be mine. It has to sound like me. It has to feel like it's my message. It has to feel it's consistent with my values and with who I am as a person. And so I think kind of that marriage of, be who you are and don't put on a persona that you imagine a salesperson to be, and then be authentic in adding value and being respectful of their time. I think those two things are the foundation of building trust with a prospect.
Building trust is easier said than done. Sales can be a difficult process, and it's often full of rejection. Carey describes how it's important to have tactics to deal with this inevitability.
Rejection is part of sales, but it's also part of life. We all face hardships in every area, in every area of our life. We fail tests, we miss a bus, we didn't get that job that we wanted. There's all kinds of areas. And so I think part of it is learning to deal with it objectively. So, my first piece of advice is expect it. Expect that 9 times out of 10, people are not going to want to talk to you. And if you expect that, it helps you to be prepared. Having some tactics that help you to pause and collect your thoughts and respond thoughtfully can be really, really important. For me, the number one thing to deal with rejection is to do my sales activity at the time of the day where I am on my A game. Having an understanding of what your own best time of day is and when you feel most confident at your best can really make a big difference. Typically, if I get somebody that reacts really negatively, I'll ask them why. And it's a great opportunity to learn how I can be better, maybe where I misspoke or where I missed saying something important that might have been relevant to them or might have caught their attention. If you're very authentic and you're very honest and you're trying to add value, you don't often get the kind of rejection that makes you afraid to pick up the phone again.
At the end of the day, your sales process is critical to the success of your business. Always remember to have a mentality focused on your customers' needs. Be authentic, be helpful, and be inquisitive. When in doubt, bring it back to the basics. Listen, learn, and stay curious.